Jason. Sorry, I was in the other room. Can you hear me?
Totally okay, Marcello. Totally okay.
I'll take that as a no. You're fired tomorrow.
No, you're fine. All right, so we got Kevin with us already. So if you want to go ahead and turn on your webcam, and Kevin, if you want to turn on your webcam and microphone, and we'll give Kevin the Marcello, if you want to practice giving him the presenter status.
The thunder status, did you say?
As in like his intro? The thunder status?
No. Did I say thunder status or presenter status?
I used thunder status, but I'll take. I mean, that's better than presenter status.
I think that's gonna be my new trail name, thunder status.
Is it better though? Are you sure?
I mean, it sounds pretty epic. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, if I had a choice, I'd rather have thunder status. I think just in the sound.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Thunder status.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I'm supposed to click the end webinar for everybody, right? That's what I'm supposed to click.
Yeah, that's the way you do it. Just
now would be the perfect time for that. Yes, thank you.
I need a nap. Is that an option?
Yeah, no, that's definitely not. I mean, you got like 20 minutes, man. I mean, you can. Yeah,
20 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from 1 p.m. Oh no, 10 minutes. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, 5 minutes rather. My bad.
And I've got 50 minutes of making stuff up, and then we'll go from there.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works. Yeah. I mean, you don't actually have to do your talk. You can just talk about anything you want.
When I was a kid, there was a show called The Gong Show, and I believe they tried to remake it again, like in early 2000. But when I was a kid, like they always put like 3 celebrities on as the judges, and they had a big gong, and people would get up and do the weirdest shit, right? And juggling chainsaws was one of them. And if any one of the judges didn't like it, they took a big mallet and they rang the gong. And if you got gonged, you were done. Didn't matter how far you had gone, right? Like that was it. And I feel like we need more gong in the world.
Alrighty. Well, you got 1 minute to you either do your talk or you juggle or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no juggling. I already said no.
Or something or whatever you want to do. You got an hour to do your thing. And I'm going to introduce Kevin here. Kevin Johnson is the chief executive officer at Secure Ideas. Kevin has a long history in the IT field, including system administration, network architecture, and application development. He has been involved in building incident response and forensics teams, architecting security solutions for large enterprises and penetration testing, everything from government agencies to Fortune 100 companies. And with that, take it away, sir.
That is a mouthful. That was
intense, but to the point. It was perfect.
That works. I always hate my bio when people are like, oh, we got to read your bio, everything else like that. So I'm Kevin. For the people who didn't pay attention to the bio, which I hope would be everybody because bios suck. And today we're going to talk about haunted security. And the reality here is that we've made up a title to discuss some stuff I'd like to present. Okay. So before we get started, a little bit about myself. Like it said, I'm the CEO of Secure Ideas. That just means head nerd. We accidentally founded the company 10 years ago, and somehow we're still in business. People keep hiring us, which is good. We do penetration testing. We have vulnerability assessment services, all that crap. I personally think we do a good job, but I'm biased. And one of the things that I think is so important and relevant to today's talk is that we do training. And I want to be very clear that while we do training, we recommend lots of people who train. You don't have to come to us to get training. I'm also an IANS faculty member, been one for a number of years. Course author, used to write and teach for SANS. I don't do that anymore, but I teach elsewhere and all over the place, which is kind of cool. I love open source. I'm the project lead for Samurai WTF, WWHF 101, which if you're interested in a 6-day AppSec class, that's 100% open source and free, WWHF 101. I will throw out there that if you're interested in training, we give discounts to veterans, first responders, and active duty military. And the biggest sales pitch ever, If you work for a nonprofit charity or you know of a nonprofit charity that needs security services, reach out. We provide free services. And that's not, just to be very clear, that is not free for 6 months and then you owe us a ton of damn money. It's not free for a period of time and then, or you only get some features. It is free, as in free. Finally, I'm a dad, a husband. I am also, and I'm pretty proud of this, but my wife says it's the nerdiest thing ever. I'm a member of the 501st Legion and the Rebel Legion. They are two costuming groups. We build Star Wars costumes and wear them to raise money for charity. So if you look at the pictures there, one of my favorite pictures is that one on the top with me as Darth Vader. It was a group of blind kids that they brought in, and then they had us stand there so they could feel what the Star Wars characters look like, which is kind of cool, I think. I will admit I'm crying in that helmet. It's just the way it works. So, yeah, and that is me in the Chewie. That's my latest one, and it is so much fun to wear. Being 7'5" and wandering around is just kind of fun. So, what are we talking about today? The reality is we're going to talk about the stretching gallery. And I don't know if you guys know this. I'm a Disney fanatic. I love Walt Disney World. Before the pandemic, we went all the time. We plan on going all the time again when it really reopens and things get a little bit better. But one of my favorite rides is the Haunted Mansion. And I don't know how many of you have been or seen it, but one of the things most people remember about the Haunted Mansion is when you first get in, you wait in line, all that kind of stuff. You walk into the building and they guide you into this gallery. Okay. Think room with no furniture, right? And it is like kind of octagonal shaped, and they shove you all in the middle, and they get to the middle of the room, whatever. And then as you stand there, and if you happen to look up, you'll notice that there are 4 paintings on the wall. And there's what appears to be a ballerina with an umbrella. There's a guy just kind of sitting like this. There's an older woman sitting holding like a rose. And then there's like a business guy looking dude, right? And you get there, and all of a sudden the door is shut, and the voiceover starts. And if you're paying attention, you'll notice that the room is stretching. Okay, so the ceiling of the room is here, and then it just slowly raises up. Okay, and if you're really paying attention, what you'll notice is that the paintings reveal hidden traps and dangers. Okay, so when you first walk into the room, everything looks fine. These are old-fashioned, timey paintings, and then as you get toward leaving the room, the paintings have now expanded to the point where you can actually see the dangers that the paintings are about. The alligators you can see there, one is quicksand, one is dynamite, and the older lady holding the rose, she's actually sitting on the grave of what appears to be her husband, right? And to me, this is something I see very often with information security. We get a lot of people to think that InfoSec is awesome. The number of people I talk to and, what do you do for a living, Kevin? I'm a hacker, right? I run a company that what we do is companies hire us for us to break in, steal stuff, and then show them how, right? I mean, heck, we've got a slogan like professionally evil. How could that not be awesome, right? But people want to jump right to that. And it's like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a penetration tester. I want to be a hacker. I want to be a security person or whatever. And that's cool. I like that. As we'll talk about throughout this session, I want to encourage people to join this field. I think that we do some really, really neat things. And honestly, if we do it right, we actually can help. We're helpful. We make things better if we do it right, right? But the other side of this that I see quite often and hear from people is that it seems like an insurmountable mountain to climb to join InfoSec or to become good at InfoSec. And that, I believe, is because we have done a crappy job of getting people to understand what they need to do, how they need to do it, and how we can help them, how we can support them, right? I've done talks about this before. I speak about this quite often to people, is that we are only where we're at because of the shoulders we have been able to stand on. And if we don't provide the shoulders to the next group, and the group after that, and the group after that, if we don't enable our own replacements, then we're just assholes. And I probably am an asshole. That's not true. I am, right? But we have to help. And so I think, for me, one important thing is how do we get people started? And how do we encourage others to get started, right? Because I'm going to assume that every single person attending this talk is already somehow, some way, an amount in InfoSec, even if all you are is coming to conferences like this, right? And that's not a ding. That's not me bad-mouthing you for only coming to conferences like this. I'm just saying that you already are involved in InfoSec at some level. And I want to encourage you to get involved as far as you can, as far as you want to, and do everything you want. But we also have to encourage and grow the people who don't come to conferences like this. They don't know to come to conferences like this, or they don't feel ready to come to conferences like this. Okay, so we have to encourage other people. We have to be there. I talked to somebody, and I've done this many times, but just recently I talked to somebody, and they said that they had tried to get involved locally in their area, and that they went out to a couple meetings like ISSA or 2600 or whatever, right? And what they found was people who knew the inside jokes, people who knew each other. And what they didn't find was a helping hand, group of people wanting them to be part of what's going on. And that is a failure. And that is a failure that is on all of us. And we need to fix that. So in my mind, there's 3 categories of things that we need to make better. And I like 3, especially since I could use the hitchhiking ghosts. I'll be honest, I love Disney World. And you'll see pictures of it all the way through this. So we want to talk about knowledge. What knowledge do you have to have? How do you get that knowledge? How do you grow that? Okay. Then we want to talk about community and what that means and how we build it and how we encourage it. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit, this is not an in-depth talk, but I want to talk a little bit about ethics. And I can't tell you which of the 3 are most important to encourage people to come in. I do know which one I think is the most important to have, and that is that last one. I think if we do not have an ethical standard that we follow, I don't think it matters how much we know. And I know for a fact we won't be able to build a good community. And by good, I mean sustainable, actionable, thriving community without ethics. And I do want to be clear that I'm not trying to enforce my ethical standards on you. I'm saying you have to have ethics. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's start with knowledge. This is one that I think that a lot of people have a problem with. And I've used these screenshots before in other slides. I think these are really, really good things to keep in mind. We tell people all the time that there is a gap infosec gap, a staffing gap, a skills gap, a whatever marketing term you want to know. And I want to be very clear, I actually believe that in most cases, it's a marketing term. The people who say, skills gap, in most cases, are not actually trying to encourage people to join the industry. What they're trying to do is sell training, okay? And as a person who sells training, I'm probably a hypocrite saying this, but we see this constantly, and oh man, the cybersecurity talent gap is an industry crisis. That article's from 2018, but I'll tell you right now, you can probably go online right now and find an article from today that says the same thing. Because we beat that drum regularly. And when you dig into it a little bit, the question is, okay, well, how do I take that class? What do I take? Where do I go? And that's where the flip side of this skills gap, hope you heard the italics and quotes, is. And that is that the cost of training is ridiculous in my mind, right? This is, and I know I'm going to say it right here, the elephant in the room. I used to teach for a training company, and I have been very public and loud about my opinion of their cost. They're not alone, okay? If you look up here, every single one of those prices is from a different place, a different organization. We see $4,000 for a training class. $7,000 for a training class. And by the way, that doesn't include the certification. That doesn't include the travel. That doesn't include so many pieces of information that you need to have and things that you need to have to prove that you did this. Okay? That is a failure of information security. That's a failure of all of us. We have failed the people who need to know this stuff. And I'll be blunt. You don't have to take these courses. You don't have to take my courses. You can learn every single thing you need to know about being a penetration tester, a forensics person, a reverse engineer, or whatever by talking to the people who do it currently. Ask questions. Talk. We'll talk about community in a second because that's where that comes from, right? But every bit of training material that you need is available out there. Like I said, and I'll throw it out there again. I said it during my bio slide, right? If you're interested in application security, if you're interested in learning how to be a web app pen tester or whatever you want to call it, right? There is a 6-day course that you can take free of charge. Now, it's going to be time and effort on your part because you're going to have to go through the materials. You're not going to have an instructor, right? But all of the materials have been uploaded to GitHub. They've been there for a couple of years now, and you can pull them down and use them, learn from them. And if you have any questions, reach out and ask, right? We like talking to people. And I'll pick on John Strand, a man that I admire so much, it's not even funny. I am proud to be able to call John a friend because John embodies the idea of knowledge sharing, right? John goes out of his way constantly. His entire company works tirelessly to build out free webcasts, free materials, blog posts about how to do things, tool sets for you to use and practice with and test out. And I know for a fact, because I've seen him do it, if you have a question about something John's done, if you have a misunderstanding, if you don't get the materials, right, you can reach out to his team and they'll spend the time with you to help you. They have communication paths, whether it's Discord or Slack or email or whatever, that you can reach out. And I'll tell you right now, and I'm bragging a little bit here, my team is the same way. I'm proud of the fact that I have grown a team of 22 people, not the biggest company in the world, big enough for me, right? That my people idle in our Slack workspace that's public. We regularly release stuff. We're doing workshops at conferences that are free for you to join and everything. And this is not bragging. It is, because I'm proud of these people, right? But this is the way it should be. If you have succeeded at any level, at any topic, you will know that you have to share that information with others. And I would argue that if you're not sharing the information of what you know and how to do it with others, you haven't actually succeeded. That is one of the core things that we have to ensure that we do. We have to ensure that we share all the details of what we are. Now, I understand, right? We have non-disclosure agreements. I can't sit here and talk to you about one of my customers. Oh man, yesterday I was doing a pen test of this organization. They do medical stuffs, right? And I found this, and here's this, and this is this vulnerability, and this is how we exploited this, and this is how we found that problem, whatever. I can't do that. I can't because of the non-disclosure agreements and the contracts we have in place. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, hey, you know what? We saw this oddity on their network. And because of this oddity, we were able to leverage that with this technique to exploit that server and gain access to the data that the customer was worried somebody would get access to. The technique is what we share. The reason for the technique is what we share, right? And if you're not doing that, if you're not helping others, you're not successful. Sorry, you're not. And, oh man, I'm a billionaire. Okay, great. How many people have you helped? How many people have you taught? I will also argue, when we talk about knowledge, until you're able to teach somebody else something, you don't actually know that something, right? I learn every time I teach. Every time I stand in front of a class or sit down with a student struggling through an exercise or talk to somebody who's coming in and try to explain how things work, I learn something new. And that's awesome. One of the main reasons I do it, right? I'll be blunt. I like learning, right? I like knowing new things and gathering information and doing all of that, okay? One of the things you got to be careful of, though, and I know there's all this different terminology around it and whatever, but gatekeeping is a thing. And we can talk about what it means to you and what it means to me and what it means to that person. But, excuse me, to me, what gatekeeping is doing something to prevent others from getting to where you are. To me, it's one of the most obvious signs of problems with your self-confidence, problems with your differences with how you present yourself and what you really are and what you know, right? And we see it constantly, right? Oh, I'd tell you, then I'd have to kill you, right? I hate that phrase. It's such a cop-out, right? It's not even a funny joke. We see people all the time, right? Oh, I just saw it earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday on Twitter. Somebody posted that they had gotten notified of a job. It's a junior position, right? So what I would consider entry-level position, right? And the job required the applicants to share a portfolio of work, but you weren't allowed to show a portfolio of work from college or a portfolio of personal stuff, like code you've built, projects you've worked on yourself. It had to be professional. That's gatekeeping. It's a form of gatekeeping, right? Because let's be blunt. If you said to me, hey, Kevin, show me the work you've done professionally, 99% of the work I've done professionally, I'm not allowed to share. I'm 47 years old. I've been in the IT field since 1991. I'm an old, fat, lazy guy, right? And the number of things that I can show you that I've done professionally, that much. The vast majority of the things that I show, the vast majority of the things that I talk about, and I'm not talking about classes I've taught, right? I'm talking about code I've written. I'm talking about projects I've accomplished. I can't show that, right? It's against the contracts. So if I'm not showing you the personal work of Samurai WTF or Weaponized Flash or Laudanum or COSO or any of these other projects I've worked on personally, right? That doesn't count. If I can't show you, well, for me, I can't show you college work because I didn't go. But for people who went to college, if they can't show the projects they worked on in college as an entry-level job, then all you're doing is putting a bar of entry that nobody can get past, except the people that you're going to let get past it without that. We also see it quite often with people tweeting out and bashing people. I saw one, and I don't remember who it was about. And to be honest, I don't know enough about people, many people, to know whether I agree with one side or another side or whatever. But in this case, one person was bashing another person because, I do know the person they were bashing well enough to say they did not deserve being bashed. But they were making fun of the person because on GitHub, there was a badge, an accomplishment badge, right? That said that the person's code was in the cyber backup or whatever the heck it's called. It's this, earlier this year, GitHub did it. And what they did was they took all the code from active projects and they had criteria. And they backed it up to this storage in the Arctic, like the seed database, right? And if your code, if anything you had worked on had been put into that, right, you got this badge. And as far as I can tell, and I've got the badge as well, there's no way for me to say, I don't want the badge. There's no way for me to say, hide that badge. I don't want to put it on my profile. It's just there. And we didn't have to submit our code. We didn't have to ask for this. We didn't have to do anything. All we had to do was have code, and please understand I'm using that term very loosely in this case, in GitHub at a certain time with certain criteria, and it was added. I'll give you an example of code of mine that got added to this repository, right? There's a gentleman, and I am totally blanking on his name. Oh my gosh. And he wrote a book, and he released the book. I bought a copy, and it's not close enough for me to look at. Dino did it. And he took the entire contents of the book and put them in GitHub so that you could download it and read it if you wanted to. And it was one of those things of, hey, I wrote this thing. Here it is. It's kind of cool. If you want, buy it. I'd like to make some money. But if not, you can look here at GitHub. Well, I bought the book, and I read the book, and I enjoyed the book. And this is stupid, but at one point when reading the book, I caught a misspelling. Okay. Minor misspelling, but I have OCD, and so it bothered me. And then I found out that the book was on GitHub. So I forked it, fixed the spelling, and did a pull request to fix that spelling, and it was accepted. And as dumb as this is, I will tell you, I told my wife, I'm like, hey, one of my pull requests got accepted. And she was like, man, are you proud of yourself? I'm like, no, it was a typo that I was fixing. This is not a major accomplishment, right? I went and looked when I saw this person being bashed, and my submission to fix the typo in that book was added to this Arctic repository backup, right? Which means that if that had been the only thing I had done on GitHub, I would have gotten the badge, the accomplishment of being a contributor to this thing for a typo. Nobody bashed me. Nobody wrote me and said, oh, well, look at Kevin. He thinks he's so badass with this thing. No, they didn't. But they have bashed other people for something we don't control, for something we didn't ask for something we didn't do. That's gatekeeping. We see way too much of this, where we see people say, oh, man, you should learn this. But before you can learn that, stop doing that. Stop being dicks. I don't know another way to put it, right? We are supposed to be working on and building community. And community is the second topic I wanted to talk about. To me, community Out of the three things we're talking about today, it's probably the largest topic of all. Because first off, what does community mean to you? This was a conversation. Leslie, Hacks for Pancakes on Twitter, posted a question, right, about community. And it really made me think that I use the term all the time. Hey, we want to build community. We want to be part of a community. We want to help people with community, right? What do I mean by that? What is community to me? Because let's be very clear. And I know people laugh about this, but I am probably the shyest, most introverted person around. Right? That's not true. There's probably people more shy and more introverted than I am, but I hate public speaking. I hate meeting new people. I hate being in crowds. But I still believe that we need to build a community. We need to grow the community. We need the InfoSec community to be good. So what do we mean by that? Well, here in this talk, I'm talking about all of InfoSec. And I've given some examples, right? I'm talking about the people who not only do this as their day job, but do it as their hobby, or either one of those, right? If you're a professional InfoSec person and you go I go to work at 9 o'clock in the morning and I leave it at 5 o'clock in the evening, Monday through Friday, and that's all I deal with, and I don't look at it any other time, and don't dare call me at 6 p.m. or 4 a.m. or whatever. I'm not listening. I'm not doing it on the weekends, right? If you're one of that person, you're still part of the community. Or maybe you're like that person who works every day in IT or any job, right? This was me 15 years ago, almost 15 years ago. I worked as a system administrator at Blue Cross of Florida during the day. Monday through Friday, I worked. I was on call. I fixed things at night when developers would deploy code, and if it didn't work, I got the phone call, right? But at night, as much as I could during the day, I tried to be part of the community. I was learning new stuff and getting involved. And heck, that's when Base was released, was back when I worked for Blue Cross. I forked Acid, which was a web front end for Snort, and pushed it out back, oh my gosh, in 2002, I think that was. And I'm old, right? But I was part of the community. And then there's people like now where I work all day and all night. And when I'm not, you know what my hobbies are? This. I do this. I only recently got a hobby that wasn't IT or security related, right? I started turning pens because my wife got tired of the fact that that's all I did was computers. And she said, you have to get a hobby. And so she bought me a lathe for my birthday. And now I make pens. Some. I haven't made any in a few weeks because I've been busy. But dang it, I can, right? By the way, this is two of the kids up there are mine. I had to put my kids into the talk. And this is an old picture of them, but it's right outside the Haunted Mansion. These are the statues, is the reference if anybody doesn't know, right? But we talk about the community being conferences, going to Wild West Hacking Fest, going to RSA. And yes, both of those are conferences. Classes people can attend, Twitter. A lot of people, when they talk about the InfoSec community, they're talking about Twitter. They're talking about social media. They're talking about the face we show there, right? Open source projects. If you're involved in open source projects, you're part of the community. If you go to local meets, here in Jacksonville, Larry and I run the OWASP Jax chapter. And once a month, you can come out to the office. Well, not right now, but once a month, you can come to our meetings and meet other people and talk to other people and be part of the local community, right? So what are the problems here and what do we do to solve them? Okay. One of the biggest problems is shown just in what we talked about, right? There is no one place that is the community. And so what we see a lot of times is that people get lost. Maybe they go out to a conference. I remember my first DEF CON, right? I decided, at that time I was still at Blue Cross, and I wanted to be a security person. I really did. That's what I had been in IT for so long, and that just seemed like the right next step for me. It seemed interesting and fun and a puzzle that I could do. And so a friend of mine and I, we went out to Vegas and we went to DEF CON. We had no idea what we could expect, right? We got there, we rented a hotel room. We were trying to save money. We rented a hotel room and we stayed at the Hilton across the street. And yeah, if you've been to Vegas, you know that across the street does not just mean a short hop, right? But we stayed at the Hilton that was right across the street. And we went over to the conference hotel the next morning. And everywhere we looked were people that looked like they were there for DEF CON. I don't know another way to put it. I don't mean, stereotypical. I just mean like it was obvious this huge crowd of people were there for the same reason we were. And we knew nobody. Nobody. I still remember Frank and I wandering around trying to figure out what talk to go to, what group to try to hang out around or meet or know or whatever. And we were just overwhelmed. And yeah, I know you probably are sitting there saying, yeah, but Kevin, it's DEF CON, it's 400,000 people. Not really, but and nobody knows anybody, and it's just this crowd. But you know something? I went to a local ISSA meeting in a city, not here in Jacksonville, but in a city I was traveling to. And this is when I was a traveling consultant, which I am still. And I went to a local ISSA meeting. I walked in, and there was probably 30 people in the room. And I was just as lost as I was when I was at DEF CON, because nobody there reached out, right? Nobody knew who anybody else was. And they had cliques and stuff like that they were building out. But I knew, at least at DEF CON, that there were people there that wanted to help me. When I was at the ISSA meeting, I didn't know that, right? When I was at DEF CON, I'll tell you, by the second day at DEF CON, Frank and I had met a number of people that I still reach out to and ask questions to today. There are people there that held out their hand and said, hey, you look new. You look lost. You look like you're trying to find stuff. Let me show you this cool shit we're doing over here. Let me show you this other thing. I met one of the people I admire to this day, Matt Carpenter, there, that first DEF CON. And in hindsight, I realized that so many of the people I knew when I started becoming a security consultant, I had met at DEF CON. I had met at these conferences. But that's from is, do you know where you are? Do you know who you're talking to, right? Another thing is, and this is, for me, one of the biggest hurdles that I struggle with when we look at going out there, and that is being embarrassed about what you don't know, being embarrassed about the questions you have, being introverted, right? I don't know about you, but I don't make friends easily. And I don't mean it like, oh, I hate people. I do hate people as a whole, and social media has proven to me that I'm right. But the reality is I don't make friends very easily. And I throw out there, InfoSec play dates, right? I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, we went to class together, right? And so, you know what? I went into a classroom and I met 30 people. And out of the 30 people, you know what? I had friends. Why did I have friends? Because we were stuck in a classroom together and our parents pushed us together, right? I remember very clearly my parents sending me to somebody's house, right? I'm gonna laugh about this one. Frankie Galanina. I don't know. Nobody here. I doubt Frankie's listening to this, and he might be. But he went to school with me in elementary school, and we were friends. But I'll tell you, and I love the guy to death. A couple years ago, I was in LAX and in the Sky Club, and he had posted on Facebook he was in the Sky Club, and we hung out between our flights, and many years after we had known each other earlier. But I'll tell you right now, I don't know why I was friends with Frankie Galanina. Not because he was a jerk, not because he wasn't somebody who is worth friendship, but because I have no concept of how it was decided that we were going to hang out, right? And I know what that means. It means my parents and his parents pushed us together, right? Because we were there. Nobody's pushing me to go hang out with people and have friendships as a 47-year-old man, right? And it's funny because I do it with my daughters, right? My wife and I, we get them to go out and see people and do things, but we don't do that as adults. And I don't think we ever learned how, for many of us, to reach out and build those connections. And if we're going to be successful, having a community at helping people, which in my mind is one of the most important things of community, right, is how to help people, right? We have to be able to make those friends, right? Another thing I read online, and I qualify with that because I have no idea how accurate it is, right? But supposedly this archaeologist, anthropologist was asked, how do you know when you look at these old ruins and bones and stuff like that, what is the qualifier for community, for civilization? Okay, what's this qualifier for civilization? What do you look at and say that was a civilization? And the person writing online said that they expected the answer to be something like, oh, there was art, or there was music, or there was buildings and architecture that were amazing, or this. And the answer was, I look for healed, broken bones in the skeletons. And let's be very clear, I don't know that this is true. This is one of those anecdotes we read on the internet. We know everything on the internet is true, right? The world is flat, vaccines are bad, and masks are awful. And I hope you understand the sarcasm in all three of those things, because if you actually believe any one of those three things, you're a dick. But I don't know if it's true, but it resounds with me. Like, it just makes sense that you're not a civilization until it's seen that you're helping people, that you care about the livelihood and life and health about somebody else. If you don't, you're not civilized. And in my opinion, that fits community. If we aren't seen to care about what other people are doing, if we aren't seen to care about other people's success, we have not built a good, thriving community. And then finally, about community, we have to remember that we're talking about real people here. I'll admit it. I've been that guy. I've been that jerk. Look, ask the people that work with me. Ask my staff how much of a dick I am when I'm on the phone with Comcast. I hate them. I hate them. If there was a Comcast van on fire in front of me and I had to pee, I don't think I'd put it out, right? And that's awful. But I see that all the time with everybody, right? People's opinions. We have to remember that everybody has opinions, and they may not agree with yours, okay? And your opinion and my opinion could be different. And I'm talking opinions here, not stupid stuff, okay? That doesn't make you wrong and me right, or me wrong and you right. It's our opinion. And those opinions drive everything else we do, okay? And I want to be very clear here. I'm talking about opinions, not facts and science and things like that. We'll go back to the vaccines are bad idea, right? That's not an opinion. If somebody says, oh, vaccines cause autism, it's not an opinion. That's just being an idiot, okay? Those opinions have to be kept in mind. The real ones, the actual ones, right? We have to understand the different cultures, right? What I grew up with, what I was taught as a kid is different than what you grew up with and what you were taught as a kid. And we are all over the place with this kind of stuff, right? And we have to recognize that. And we also have to recognize the differences in how we communicate. And that's a rough one. I just had a perfect example, okay? My wife runs Secure Ideas. There's three of us that own it, my wife and I, so Denise, myself, and Jason Gillen. And the three of us own Secure Ideas. And Denise handles all of our accounting stuff, our billing, our like the stuff that makes sure we get paid. As a matter of fact, she handles payroll. Okay. So she really is probably the most important person in the company, because if we didn't pay people on time when they're supposed to, right? One of the worst things that have happened is to not get your paycheck. I've had it happen. I've been there in a job and been told, oh, damn, we forgot to run payroll this week. Yes, that has happened. Okay. That's critical. And so we're working with this company. We're about to buy a piece of software. As a matter of fact, we bought it now. But at the time, we were in the process of negotiating the contract and everything else like that. And they sent us the invoice for the first payment for the software. And I got it. For some reason, they sent it to me, to Kevin@secureideas.com. I don't know why, but they did. And I'm like, okay. So I forwarded it to accounting@secureideas.com with a note that said, could somebody handle this? And I know I just said that Denise handles all this, but she's got 2 other people that work with her on that kind of stuff and help with that. So I was basically saying, hey, you all, please take care of this. My wife gets email because she's working late, I'm working late. Funny part is, we weren't in the same room. We were both at home. I was in the office at home, and she was just sitting in the living room and had decided to pick up her computer and look at stuff to make sure she was caught up. And she gets my email. An email now, and I want to be very clear, right? My house is not that big, okay? 2,200 square feet. That's it. And I mean, it's big enough for me. I like it, but it's not this mansion. All my wife had to do was say, hey, Kevin, and I would have responded. That's how close the 2 rooms that I'm talking about are. She got that email, and she thought, when I had written, could somebody handle this, that what I meant was, here's an invoice we've had that you're ignoring, and it's late, and we owe this money to somebody, and what the heck are you all doing that we didn't pay this bill? Okay? She's freaking out about it. She starts digging through, trying to find out where she missed it, because in her mind, okay, so first she paid it. Yeah, that was the first thing she did. Second thing she did was start to try to figure out how she had missed this invoice. And she couldn't find any example of her missing the invoice. And for the people who want to be pedantic and play games, she did validate that she was supposed to pay. She sent me back a message via Slack, making sure that I'm who sent it to her. And sure enough, I had, and she paid the bill. But she didn't ask me when I had first sent it. She was so upset that somehow she had missed something because she took my message as this angry, will somebody handle this, damn it? She dug in and she spent about half an hour looking through email and looking through stuff trying to find this invoice from before. And she didn't find it. And the reason she didn't find it was I had just received the invoice 5 minutes before I sent it. Okay? It was the first one. I had just meant it as, hey, could somebody take this? Right? And we see this type of communication problem online. We see this type of communication problem in email and even at conferences and local meets where we're building people up and we're trying to get everybody involved. We see the same type of, well, you said this. Did you mean that? And the problem is most times that question isn't asked. It's just assumed. Oh, I know what you meant. I know what you were trying to say, right? And we see people react to that and get angry and furious, and we see it undermining what people are doing. And it prevents others from joining the group, joining the community with everything that they bring. Because I'll tell you right now, I learn the most from people who don't have the same amount of time in the industry as I do, right? Because they have a different perspective. They see things differently. I look at something and I have an, well, is this the way you do that? And then I talk to somebody who's fresh out of college or they're in their first job or second job, and they're like, oh, what about this? I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. I didn't think that was a thing. I didn't look at that. Oh, man, that's crazy. You're right. That's awesome. I like it. And I learn. Okay? So it's important to remember that they're real people that we're talking to, even though it's real easy to be a keyboard warrior, right? We're talking about real people. We need to remember that they have feelings, we have feelings, they have ways they interpret, we have ways we interpret, But we have to talk that out. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk about is ethics. And I'm not going to get into a long in-depth, oh man, we have to be ethical, and here's the ethical standard I follow. I'm a Christian, and this is this, and you better be this, and damn you if you're not. Okay? Pun intended. What I'm saying is that we have to know our ethical standards. What are you willing to do? And this is a conversation. We actually have lots of conversations about ethics at Secure Ideas. We talk about things we can do, things we wouldn't do, things we shouldn't do, right? I still remember, oh man, it was a long time ago. I had a student in class once, and we were talking about being ethical, doing the right thing. And this student said to me, so Kevin, are you telling me that you would never break the law? Like, well, that's not exactly what I said. I speed. I drive way too fast. He said, no, that's funny, but no. What I'm talking about is you say, always have permission and don't ever hack something without permission. And, you have to do this and that's your ethics and da-da-da. So are you telling me you would never hack something you don't have permission to hack? And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. And they're like, so you would hack something you don't have permission to hack? I'm like, yeah, I'm a very firm believer that everybody has their own price, right? I have my ethics, and I'm going to stand by those ethics and live by those ethics and do what I consider is ethical, okay? And there are times where maybe I won't, okay? There is a price for me to break my ethics. And we started this conversation, right? And the person's like, oh, so if somebody offered you $1 million, you would break your ethics. I'm like, no, it's not what I said. I'm not going to tell you I wouldn't, because nobody's ever offered me $1 million to break my ethics. I'd like to believe that I wouldn't. But I absolutely know a time where we could say that I'd break my ethics. Mess with my kids. Mess with my wife. And I feel like that'd be an easy one, right? Yeah, no issue. They're my kids. It's my wife. I love them. That my entire purpose in life is to help them, protect them, make them better than me, right? So yeah, but we have to know our own ethics. And this can't be something that you decide as you're presented the situation. I remember DARE, right? The drug program. I'm not young enough to have gone through DARE, but my sister was, and I've seen it from other people. And one of the things about DARE, and I'm not going to talk about legitimacy or anything else like that. I'm not doing that. One of the things about DARE was their goal was to get people to understand what their decision should be before they're presented with a question. And I actually think that's an important thing to do. I think the war on drugs is stupid, and I don't do drugs. I don't understand doing drugs, but I'm also a very firm believer in people should be able to make their own decisions. So, but I think that the idea of tabletopping, thinking about, considering the different situations you may be in, right? So, hey, if somebody came to you and said, my significant other was abusive, they beat me, I finally got out, but oh man, they have all my money and they have my credentials to my bank account and I don't have it and I need to get into it and I need your help. I need your help to get me back into the money that I earned. It's my money and I can't get it. And you're a hacker, could you help me? Would you help them, right? Would you break into a bank? Would you brute force the account? Would you phish the abusive significant other, whatever, right? To get them access to their thing. I don't know the right answer. I don't know your answer, right? But you should know your answer before you get into that situation. Because if you're trying to think of your ethics at the time, you're going to screw up, okay? We have to communicate what our ethics are. And like I say, we need to be seen to follow our ethics. We can't just say these are our ethics. We have to exhibit those. And remember, and this is where we get into conversations online. I've been in many conversations on Twitter and what have you. My ethics are not necessarily the law, right? There are things I think is 100% ethical to do, and it's probably against the law, right? I know that it's against the law to change lanes without signaling, right? But if I'm on a road by myself in the middle of the night and there's nobody else around, not signaling is ethical. It's a horrible example, but let's go with it, right? So think through your ethics. Talk to other people about ethics. And we, as an InfoSec community, we have to create a standard of ethics that we stand by. And, I've got the CISP one up there because I think it's probably the most widely known ethical standard in InfoSec, right? It's their code of ethics. I'm not saying it's the right one. It's just an example. Princess Leia is on the graphic because I'm a Star Wars fanatic, hint. And I think that she was probably one of the most ethical people in all of the storylines out there. I think she fits that. So that's my talk. I ran a little bit late. I'm sorry. I was trying not to. Is there any way I can help? Please reach out. I'm Kevin@secureideas.com or Darth_Kevin on Twitter. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to help you do what you want to accomplish. Thank you.
That was an amazing talk, Kevin. I loved it. I loved a lot of the discussions that you brought up. I especially like the part where you talked about the community, because I think we do have a lot to work on when it comes to that, because we do say some things that we should all have all calm down, chill out conversation about things before jumping at each other's throats. I'm
not a calm person. I'm horrible at that.
No, it's not. I don't blame the person. I blame the game. I blame Twitter. I don't blame the person.
Oh, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. So thank you very much.
I apologize. I think I went 3 minutes over. I don't know whether I screwed up the next people. I'm sorry. I'm a jerk.
No, you're fine. We have a 10-minute buffer between each talk, so.
In that case, let's keep going. No.
Yeah, it's fine. We do that just for that. All right, and I think Kevin. Well, thanks for joining, and
thank you.
Thank you. Awesome talk. Really, really, really liked it.
Yeah, appreciate it, Kevin.
Everybody enjoy yourselves.